Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Oh, the air vent is back. My hopes that we look at this. My face is red. Ho, ho, ho. Happy holidays here. I will try to figure this out. I apologize. The vent has made an appearance, though. So the vent is here. I'll try to work on this. The bottom line is, thanks, Microsoft. So let's see if I can change my face so it doesn't look like I'm red. Oh, let's go black and white, Ray. Let's just do black and white, Ray, today. I don't know, folks. I apologize again for those of you that missed it. There's an update on the computer from Microsoft. I now no longer can control my Logitech camera as I had for years through the Logitech app. The way to control it is now through the Microsoft app. Maybe I'll just download everything. I don't know. I'll try to figure it out after the show. But the bottom line, it's a mess. But we're going to soldier on. Hopefully you all don't mind the fact that I look a little bit like a white ghost now. Oh, my mouse is deciding not to work. This is really fun. It's going to be a great day. I'm telling you it will be. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Let's get into it. We're here Monday through Friday on the show, Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FG. This show goes from 12 to 1 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. After us, there's about an hour break, and then Jeff Mann's show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio pops off. That show's from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm with Jeff on Wednesdays from 2 to 5. I'm with you all here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman is here. So, let's see. Morning, everyone. The air vent. Everyone loves the air vent, right? Paint some eyes over the air vent, says Angelo. Work and grind says, put a Christmas tree on the vent. That's actually a good idea. Not a bad idea. Henry says, morning to the air vent. Reinstall the Logitech cam, and that's what I had to do. Yeah, I'll do that after. We'll see if that actually helps, Angelo. But yeah, again, it was working fine until Microsoft updated things. So here we go. That's always fun. Isn't that great? And I say this all the time. If you listen to the Elite Sports Show Monday through Friday, when I'm on Wednesdays, I can't go for that. And I think I've said it over the years, probably 3 times. When you update these things, I get it. They're updating, they're fixing mistakes and patches, and they're trying to stop, cyber attacks and all that kind of stuff. Why do updates ruin other things? Right? Number one. And number two, why do you force me to do an update? Like, there are certain devices, like your computer, you can turn it off. I had my update turned off, but eventually Microsoft said you got to do it, right? It's like, okay, why does that screw other things up? Anyway, I'm not a computer guy, but hey, what the hell? Let's give it a go. Look at my face. Why am I so red when it has me here? I'm going to go black and white today. We'll go with that. You can follow me on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads. We'll get past all the tech stuff, especially for those of you listening to the show wondering what the hell we're talking about. Follow me on all those social media platforms at The Ray Flowers. If you're listening to us in podcast form, you can do that all over the place. The podcast form is available to you. Wrong one there. There we go. YouTube Music, iTunes on Apple, Apple Music, whatever the hell they call it now, Pandora, Spotify, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. Go to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. You can find all the shows on the Elite Plus network, including this one. The 3 places, including the places that you're seeing the comments already being given here, 3 places you can watch live or on demand. In those 3 spots, you can leave comments and questions throughout the show, which we will address. Let me take a sip of water. Those 3 places are youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, and then on Facebook, facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. I'm trying to get my mind around everything, and I've wasted a couple minutes of your time rambling on, so let's just dive into it. What are we going to do? You'll see it on the screen there. We're going to talk some Monday Night Football. Cowboys defeated the Raiders as expected. We'll talk a little bit about the waiver wire in about 25 minutes. It is a Tuesday. Armando Marsal visits every Tuesday. We often talk storylines, and this week the storyline is the quarterback, and we'll dig into this with Armando. There's a couple of situations where I just want to talk to him about the quarterbacks and their performances, but we got changes at the quarterback position all over the place. We got to talk about situations in Atlanta, Houston, New York Jets, Pittsburgh, New York Giants, Cleveland. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Armando Marsal. We'll do that in about 25 minutes. Let's talk some football here by discussing Monday night. Why is this happening now? Now, everyone is hating me. Oh my gosh, we'll figure this out. Monday Night Football, 33-16. Cowboys defeated the Raiders. this is not the way I wanted the holiday season to kick off, right? We got Thanksgiving next week. We'll be improved by then. We've got Thanksgiving. Okay. Let's all hope things get better. And hello, Olivia. Happy to see you here with us on the show. Cowboys 33-16. I don't know what happened here with the suspension for 3 plays. You probably saw it if you didn't see it. Pickens and Lamb were on the field at the start of the game. I don't know what happened. They're being very tight-lipped about it. Benching guys for a series has no impact. It has no impact really on the game. It has no impact on the team. It has no impact on the players. Doesn't make any sense. You bench a guy or you don't bench a guy. But whatever. We're a fantasy show, so let's dive into the numbers here. On the Cowboys side of things, again, they beat an inferior opponent. They moved to 4-5-1. The Raiders fall to 2-8. Cowboys still clinging to playoff hopes. We'll see if they can make that a reality. It's a long path, but we'll see if they can make it a reality. We do know that there are some weapons in the fantasy space that we love. Starting under center, Dak Prescott, another big game for him, 268 yards and 4 touchdowns. Could have had a 5th touchdown late, but it didn't happen. Missed his pass attempt there a little bit. There's that. But still, 4 touchdowns, 268 yards, nothing to complain about. He's been on a very nice stretch. I think it's 5 of 7 games where it's like 235 yards and 2 scores. He's been very consistent. Multiple 3 touchdown games, some 4 touchdown games like last night. He doesn't run, and he's very much in the Matthew Stafford mold of a pocket passer who has to have these big games. And sometimes even when they have a big game, it's like they're still not the highest scorer on the slate, right? Or the highest scorer for the weekend because of the fact that they just don't use their legs. Let's look this up right here if I can get my mouse to work. Mouse, week 11, quarterback. Jeez. Hold on one second, everybody. All right, so what we got going on now, as we have the least professional show we've ever done here on the channel. Now we've got my mouse that's wireless not acting properly. So let's plug it in. Okay, now we're back to working. Dak Prescott ended up as the 3rd highest score of the week. So he did have a strong finish relative to the field. In terms of his pass catchers, the big score was from Pickens. Beautiful touchdown grab. He caught it, looked like he was running to the left corner of the end zone, made a cut back to the center of the field. Beautiful play for Pickens. Of course, then he got a penalty for humping the goalpost or whatever the hell he did. Good with the bad here with Pickens. 9 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown. For the most part, he's stayed out of trouble for the Cowboys. He's been a fantastic producer in the fantasy space. As we're well aware, as we saw again last night, there are always limits to that. And 5 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown for CeeDee Lamb. Lamb, every healthy game he's played, has caught 5 passes. The 66 yards he had was the lowest total he's had all season long. I think he's had a 7-catch or touchdown game in every healthy game he's played this year. He's obviously an absolute star. Jake Ferguson got in the end zone yet again. You know that Jake Ferguson, 4 catches for 16 yards, and it's like Jake Ferguson is on pace. Let's pull this up. I think he's on pace he's catching 6 passes a game. So he's on pace for 95 catches and like 11, 12 touchdowns. And it's like, he's got 400 yards. Like 400 yards. If you look at his performances here of late, he has 1 game of 35 yards in 5 games, does Jake Ferguson. He's averaging 26 yards the last 5 games. Now, he scored 4 touchdowns in 5 games, so no one cares. But, 3.8 catches, 25.6 yards. That's some, no Fant stuff. But he gets in the end zone. He keeps getting in the end zone. That keeps his fantasy value up. But there are weeks where he's been a killer even of late because he just doesn't do anything other than score touchdowns. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And then in the backfield, Javonte Williams didn't really do anything. 23 touches is great. Dominated the touches yet again. Dominated the workload yet again. Malik Davis, the only active running back. Jaden Blue wasn't on the field again. I had a question in Discord just to say it. If you have Jaden Blue, the only reason at this point to have Jaden Blue is if you have Javonte Williams. I really don't think Malik Davis takes over if Javonte Williams gets hurt. Make no mistake, Williams is on the field all the time. He's getting injured all the time, all that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, you like my sweater? Thanks, Murph. You're only supposed to see the top of the holiday sweater here, which is Santa in the trees, but because of the fact that the vent is making an appearance in the camera, you could see it's all right. Let's do it. Yep. all kinds of class going today here on the show. Because of all the workload of Javonte Williams, there is concerns about him wearing down or him getting hurt. So blue is only roster hold, though, if you have Javonte Williams. And even then, there's some trepidation with that call. On the other side of things, the Raiders suck. I mean, there's not much to say here. Geno Smith is not good, point blank. At one point in time, at least he was a game manager who didn't turn the ball over. That's no longer the case. He turns the ball over all the time. I think he has 9 interceptions in 5 home games or something like that. Another poor effort, 238 yards, touchdown, and a pick on 42 attempts. Terrible production. He actually led the Raiders in rushing, and this is the problem with the Raiders. Their offense is completely collapsing. The offensive line play is poor. The quarterback play is poor. Ashton Jeanty was tackled for a safety late in the game. He had 6 carries for 7 yards. They can't run the football at all. At least Jeanty caught 6 passes. He's getting in the end zone. He didn't last night, but he's getting in the end zone, kind of being the Jake Ferguson of running backs, actually. So he's keeping his value okay, is Jeanty, because he's catching 3, 4, 5, 6 passes. He's getting in the end zone, but there's no yardage here. Everything is on his back. There's no real feeling that the rest of the way he's going to improve substantially on a per-touch basis because the offense is bad and the offensive line is just not good. So he's still a running back 2. You start him every week, but the floor, unfortunately, is cavernous, as we saw last night. In terms of the pass catchers here, there's nobody here but Brock Bowers. Trey Tucker, if you're desperate, okay. They had one wide receiver last night, one single guy. It was Trey Tucker, who played half the snaps. That doesn't work in the NFL in the modern age. What do? Well, their base offense is now 12 personnel. 12 personnel is 2 tight ends, okay? That's what the Raiders are doing now. Meyer's on the field all the time, or Mayer's on the field all the time, Bowers on the field all the time, and that's how it's working. So that means that we get Tucker on the field all the time. There's only a second wide receiver on the field, whether it's Besh or Thornton, whoever it might be. They're irrelevant. They're not on the field. Again, one wide receiver, Lockett, one wide receiver played half the snaps. So if you're a wide receiver that you can't even get on the field half the time. So the bottom line takeaway here with the Raiders, Tucker is usable. He plays all the snaps. He is their lead receiver. He is usable. But this offense is base set now as 12 personnel, which destroys, even in a DFS scenario. Like, I don't know how you'd even possibly be using any of the other Raider wide receivers because you're just taking a guess on a broken tackle or a 60-yard touchdown because there's just no volume here, and they want to run 2 tight end sets. So I haven't mentioned it yet. According to Nick Lind B989, did not mention it. We'll talk to Tyler Beaker on Thursdays. He's with us every Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to the huge bet from Discord last night. Yeah, 50-1 or something like that. I think I saw it. So Tyler, if you're watching, thank you. According to Nick, and I'm sure a lot of other folks. But yeah, Tyler stormed back from a rough previous effort with a big game last night, including that big win. And remember, it's a little thank you, Nick. It's kind of a lead in here. Let's throw it up on the screen. We do have the rest of the season package. I don't know how much longer this is going to be good for. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. And you can sign up for the football product. The football product is for college football and for the NFL. So it's both college and NFL. It's all of the seasonal coverage, all of the DFS coverage, all the betting coverage, rest of the season. So everything we do basically for football, you get access to. Articles, rankings, projections, live streams, podcasts, all of it for all 3. Betting, seasonal, DFS, and also for college football and the NFL. $99.99 the rest of the way. Send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. All right, let's look at some waiver wire stuff. Let's throw the other screen. There we go. Remember, 4 teams on bye this week. Miami, Denver, Los Angeles Chargers. Still sounds wrong to say that, right? Washington Commanders. Let's start talking some wide receivers. We've all heard it by now, and it's Jamar Chase is appealing the spit, the $500,000 spit because he loses the game check. He spit on Jalen Ramsey, okay? So he's been suspended 1 game. The expectation is fully that he's not playing this week. He's appealing it. We shall see. Really strong. In baseball, you can have a 5-game suspension reduced to 3, right? Or a basketball, maybe a 3 down to 2. In football, you can't reduce a 1-game suspension, right? It's almost impossible to overturn a 1-game suspension because that's the least amount you can give somebody because of the fact the season's so short. So I just don't think it's reasonable to expect him to have this situation overturned. Fully expect Jamar Chase, from being an idiot, not being able to play this week. That means Andrei Iosivas, and you can see how to spell his name there. It doesn't sound like it was Iosivas. This is one of the rare scenarios where it's very obvious who the next man up is at the wide receiver position. It's almost like Iosivas, and I mentioned this earlier in Scott Fishbowl. I had been storing him all season long. He was one of the rare situations where you don't handcuff Higgins or Chase, okay. But, Iosivas should step in here for Chase. I'm not saying he's getting 12 targets. Let's not get stupid. But he already plays almost all the snaps behind Higgins and Chase because they do the 3 wide receiver set there as their base. He's going to be on the field all the time. He probably sees 6-8 targets this week. So for those of you looking for the pickup, Iosivas, someone whose numbers are not very good because of the fact he's behind those 2 stars, has a very significant chance to see a significant workload. And it's not insane. It's really not to consider double-digit targets for him. I'm saying it's going to happen. You shouldn't add him expecting it to happen. But it's not insane to think it could happen. So at least there's workload there that you can kind of project out with Iosivas. Darnell Mooney, same thing. We don't know for certain that the PCL injury says London's not going to play this week. I don't think Drake London has officially been ruled out this week. Maybe he has. Regardless, he's not playing this week because of his PCL. No one expects him to play, right? And so the problem for the Falcons is there's nobody in this offense, right? Their offense has been Bijan, London, a little bit of Pitts, a little bit about Algier, and that's it. Well, now we have change at quarterback. We'll talk more about the Kirk Cousins situation with Armando Marsal here in about 15 minutes. But Drake London's doubtful, so he's not playing this week. This receiving core is Darnell Mooney, David Stills, Cordarrelle Hodge, Casey Washington. Ooh. Hopefully, this means an uptick in targets share for Kyle Pitts. I think it's reasonable to think that. But if we're talking wide receivers, it's got to be Darnell Mooney who steps forward. The problem is Mooney is an extremely different type of receiver than Drake London. Mooney is a little guy who runs fast, he stretches the field a lot more. London was more the possession guy, right across the middle of the field. So can Mooney, who's caught one single pass in 3 of the last 4 games, who's last caught 4 passes in week 3, who has only one single game this season of 45 yards and has no touchdowns, can he go 600 like London has been doing? No. Let's not be making that move just because he's stepping up in the pecking order. But he probably sees 8 to 10 targets. And again, Cordarrelle Hodge is the guy that theoretically steps into the role of London. So he is somebody that I could have put on this list. If you wanted to say, I'm going to let someone else fight over Mooney and I'm going to grab Hodge and hope I get 5 for 50. Okay. That's not unreasonable. Is it exciting? No. Is it sexy? No. And remember, this Falcons offense has got a lot of things going on. Again, we'll talk more about it with Armando Marsal in a few minutes. Michael Wilson. Now, this one, we talked about this earlier in the week, which would have been yesterday because it is now Tuesday. I mentioned the fact that how I pivoted in one of my leagues from Garrett Wilson to Michael Wilson. That turned out very well. Anyone that played him for his 1,585 game got a huge return. Michael Wilson in the already released, though extremely premature rankings at fantasyguru.com. Thank you to Jeff Manns doing the Lord's work, as they say, staying up until 4 in the morning to do rankings over at FG. I think Wilson is ranked 24th right now for this week at the wide receiver spot. Greg Dortch could have been listed here too. Both guys probably on a waiver wire in a good amount of leagues, though. They should have been added, obviously, last week. They were in my leagues. I don't know if they were in your leagues. But Wilson is the guy to target. Said it previously. The results were there over Dortch. Both guys are going to be extremely crazy expensive if on the waiver wire. You had the completion record for Brissett. He's gone 250 and 2 every game. We don't know when Marvin Harrison's going to be back. And so this is the real issue. Jeff Manns and I talked about this last week. I think it's reasonable to expect Harrison to miss this next game for the Cardinals. More than that, I don't know. So the bottom line is Michael Wilson is usable, but that window is not necessarily the rest of the season. There's always a chance they shut down Harrison. I don't think that's what they're going to do, though. So Michael Wilson, is it one more game where he's getting 8 to 10 targets? Is it 2 more games? Because when he comes back, we know how this offense is operated. He's getting, he's catching 4 passes for 42 yards, and it's fine. So it's about the price point you pay. Last week, like as an example, I added Wilson last week after the Harrison news off the waiver wire for nothing. If you got to go out and spend 30% of your budget to add him this week, there's a price to be paid for just moderate production, likely moving forward. In terms of the backfield, let's talk about a few guys here before we talk to Armando Marsal in about 10 minutes. Zonovan Knight lost a 59-yard touchdown on a penalty last week. Still scored a touchdown, but lost a 59-yarder on a penalty. We heard Amari DiMercado's got a high ankle sprain. Hasn't officially been ruled out this week, but he's not going to play this week. Michael Carter's there to take some touches, but the lead running back for the Cardinals is Zonovan Knight. I think he's listed as Bam Knight, but his name is Zonovan. Bam Knight is the lead back right now, unless Trey Benson returns. So we'll start getting that information now. Benson, who continues to miss time with the ankle injury, hopefully, well, I say hopefully because I have him on multiple teams. Hopefully we'll be back this week, but we just have no idea. So Zonovan Knight's another one of these guys. Could end up with 14 touches and a touchdown this week. If Knight's back, if Benson's back, he could end up with 7 touches and 36 yards this week. So be cautious with how you spend to get Knight. But as of right now, in this early waiver wire look, he is the lead back for the Cardinals. Emmanuel Wilson almost certainly is going to be the lead running back for the Packers. We talked about him on the show yesterday. Again, hopefully you have Wilson if you have Jacobs. I do. Hopefully you do too. I have that Wilson in my Dynasty League. I have him in the Jeff Mann's league that I'm in. Hopefully that's a scenario where you've done your due diligence and you have cuffed your guy. This is why cuffing matters. If you have to bid on him, we want to be fairly aggressive here if you have to bid on him. The real problem is the aggression has to be kept in check because we just don't know how much time Josh Jacobs is going to miss. If Josh Jacobs' knee injury is going to cost him a week or two, is it going to be 3 or 4? They're saying they don't believe IR is coming down for Jacobs. Now, of course, this can change quickly. We see this happen all the time in the NFL. But if it's a week or two, you don't want to be overly aggressive with Wilson. If it's 4 weeks, you want to be aggressive with Wilson because this offense really does operate through the backfield with the Packers. As of right now, again, this is why you cuff. If you didn't own Jacobs and the Jacobs owner didn't have Wilson, which is very possible, as of right now, we're going to be slightly aggressive because even if Jacobs is back, he's been beat up. He's been great, right? But he's been beat up. There's been multiple games where he's kind of playing a little less than his normal snap share. So be aggressive with Emmanuel Wilson, though what that return will look like will depend completely upon the health of Josh Jacobs. Kenneth Gainwell, right now we don't know if Jalen Warren is going to play this week, which is why this says on the screen there, early waiver wire look, because we need more information before we make that final call. As of right now, let's assume that Warren is out. In the 2 games that Warren is out, Gainwell has been a star. We're seeing 15 plus touches. We're seeing 100 yards from scrimmage. Like we're seeing really good work. Touchdowns. Caleb Johnson got involved a little bit last week. He had a decent run that was called back on a penalty too. But Gainwell will be the lead guy. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. We'll talk to Armando about that in a few minutes. Don't know who the quarterback is going to be for Pittsburgh. But what we do know is that if Warren is indeed out with his injury, that Kenneth Gainwell very likely sees 15 touches, very likely catches 4 or 5 passes, and has a chance to be the guy at the goal line as well. So that, again, short term here, because when Warren's back, he's back in the lead. But Gainwell is a very intriguing short-term pickup if Jalen Warren is down. Chris Rodriguez, we talked about yesterday as well. He's basically become, sure seems that way at least, the lead back for the Commanders. This is not to say that McNichols is going to get benched. This is not to say that JCM, Bill, is going to get benched. All 3 of these guys are likely to be involved. Rodriguez does appear, though, to be at the head of that trifecta of running backs. Triple running backs, it's terrible. It sucks. We never really want to be involved there. He had 15 carries last week, did Rodriguez. If they were intending to give him 15 carries a week, we don't care if 2 other guys are involved, right? Because of 15 touches. Rodriguez is somebody who you're going to have to pay up because of what we saw last week. There is the uncertainty of this offense and where they're at, but he is the lead guy right now for the Commanders, and he is somebody that, pending that price point, again, Rodriguez is somebody you should have added previously, right? And this is Jeff Mann's talking about this again on the show yesterday, and I'm sure he'll bring it up today when he talks about waivers on his show. We try to be proactive here at guru.com. We try to be a week ahead, sometimes 2 weeks ahead. Because again, if you're reacting to Wilson, you got to pay up. If you're reacting to Emmanuel Wilson or Michael Wilson, if you're reacting to Gainwell, if you're reacting to Chris Rodriguez, you got to pay up now. Versus these guys were on the waiver wire in your league last week. It was 3% of your budget, 2% of your budget, 1% of your budget if they're still out there, right? You could have just picked them up. So timing is always something. Devin Singletary is available in a bunch of leagues. Devin Singletary, who we also talked about yesterday, basically shared the snaps and basically shared the touches with Tyrone Tracy this past week. Tyrone Tracy is the preferred back of the two. There's been a lot more Singletary involved here than a lot of people anticipated. Even with the change with Brian DeBall out, there was some thought, well, Singletary's a Brian DeBall guy. So, we're going to lean heavily toward Tracy. Not what we saw on the weekend at all. The most concerning thing if you're a Tracy owner, and the most positive thing if you're thinking about randomly starting Devin Singletary, which let's hope you're not. Singletary was used at the goal line. He got the short yardage work. So Singletary to me, I mean, a secondary, a 1B to the 1A in a blah offense with uncertainty at the quarterback spot, uncertainty at the wide receiver spot. Like Singletary is just, I got no other choice. And there are 4 teams on bye this week, so maybe, I don't know. But that's just not something that I'm going to be interested in pursuing if I had my druthers, if you will. So interesting. It makes my face red too. That's too much. Let's go a little, I don't know. I'll work on this after the show as we talked about. Jaleel McLaughlin had 7 touches on 8 snaps. Not possible. Not possible. But he appears to be ahead of Beatty right now. So if you're an RJ Harvey guy, Jaleel McLaughlin, it's fine to add. The problem for McLaughlin and for this team actually is the fact that McLaughlin's not an early down banger. Beatty's not an early down banger. Like if Harvey were to go down with an injury, it's not like I would say, oh, Jaleel McLaughlin's getting 14 carries and 6 catches. Right? So, okay, desperation mode will be involved. Random touchdown maybe, like we saw with Harvey when Dobbins is out there. So, Jaleel McLaughlin, do what you will with that. And then 3 tight ends before we talk to Armando. Juwan Johnson, he's been really effective. And he was effective last time out, even with Tyler Shuck. Now, they're coming off a bye of the Saints, which is a reason why Johnson obviously might have been dropped when he really shouldn't have been dropped. We've talked a lot about Johnson here on the show. The ups, the downs, the sideways nature of his performance. But at the end of the season, or at the end of the day, I guess, at least, because the season obviously isn't over. But at the end of the day, he's been out there, and let's see, where is he at? Right now, he is top 10 tight end. He's tight end 7 in the setup. So, with Rashid Shaheed out, and Rashid Shaheed, remember, he was getting 7, 8, 9, 10 targets a week. With him now part of Seattle, Tyler Shuck is going to be throwing to Olave and Johnson. So Johnson's a very intriguing option if he's on the waiver wire at this point. Brenton Strange, we don't know if he's going to be able to return from his injury. I believe that the Jaguars did open his 21-day window, so it is absolutely possible he can return to action. Remember, it was a long time ago, and this team has made changes, like they brought in Myers, but Hunter's on the IR. Brian Thomas still isn't playing. Brenton Strange was catching 4 or 5 passes a game before he got hurt. Excuse me. Was catching 4 or 5 passes a game. This has been a terrible show. I apologize, folks. Hopefully Armando Marsal can save us. 4 or 5 targets, 4 or 5 catches a game for Brenton Strange. So he's intriguing if he's out there this week. And then finally, AJ Barner, and we talked about him as well. How could we not talk about him yesterday? 10 catches over the weekend. He was one of the stars to the tight end position. Remember, Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts. The play calling, and he himself, he threw 4 interceptions. So let's simplify things. Where is your tight end throwing the ball? I think some of that was involved. I think some of the fact that the Rams are just a difficult defense was involved. 10 catches for 70 yards cannot be ignored. But Barner simply is not somebody you can pay up for, and it's likely to be a pay-up situation. I mean, he caught 7 passes the previous 4 games, right? So, it's a price point scenario with him. If you can get Barner for 3% and play him, sure, what the hell? If you got to pay 15% of your budget, no. And frankly, if you're planning on starting Barner this week, let's pull up the rankings. And again, these rankings go up on Tuesday morning. They went up at 3:30 yesterday. Again, Jeff Mann's doing the Lord's work. They will be updated throughout the week, on Friday in particular. You should not be holding anybody to these exact rankings because this information is way too early. We've talked about all these waiver wire guys, not even knowing the health of players. But right now, we've got AJ Barner, tight end 23 over at fantasyguru.com. So even if you're bidding 2 or 3% and you bid 6%, you get him. Do you want to start him? Probably not. So keep that in mind when we talk A.J. Barner. Doc's got a question here before we go to Armando. You like Strange and or Barner over Musgrave? I'm hurting at tight end, been rolling Musgrave. We use waiver wire priority, not that. Well, here's the problem, Doc. Again, I don't know if Strange is going to play this week. So we can't make that move right now. We just don't know if he's going to be active. Musgrave, we do have ranked ahead of Barner right now. And I'm not against that play. I'm okay with saying I'm going to keep Musgrave over Barner. Do I want to start either guy? Right now, neither one's even top 15 in our tight end position rankings this week. So Fitzpatrick coming on in the second half last week for the Packers makes this a very uneven situation. I think the thinking with the rankings, and again, we'll dive into this in more depth as the week goes on. We're talking obviously matchups, but also in the case of Barner, he's probably going to catch 3 balls for 32 yards. What's his touchdown upside? Very, very low. In the case of Musgrave, there's more touchdown equity potentially. He might also catch 3 passes for 32 yards, but so neither one. I'd be partial to Strange if he was active and playing, and we knew he was going to play a full complement of snaps, but we just don't know that at this point. Okay, let's bring in Armando Marsal. He's our guy over at fantasyguru.com. Let's hope that our technology holds on while Armando is here because we don't want to lose his great information. I'll let you know, Armando, if there is any problems. It's probably me today. We're having all kinds of tech issues. I look like I'm a ghost right now. It's better than when I look like I was a beet red. We've seen my air vent make appearances. My camera and my new Microsoft update, Armando, are not getting along very well. So let's hope we can hang on for another half an hour during your visit. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Ray. How about yourself? Well. I know you're not having such a great morning, but from a tech perspective. But
yeah,
I'll tell you this, I'm digging the sweater and I'm digging the background here, so I'm in.
Yeah, thank you. I got my Santa Claus here. You're kind of hard to see him. Yeah. My holiday sweater, one of the many I have, and my mouse decided to stop working, so I had to plug it in during the middle of the show. So we had like 8 seconds of dead air. That was always good. That's good too. So yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully I haven't seemed like a complete lunatic today, but let's dive into some of these storylines here with you. And again, Armando joins us every Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Normally we kind of bounce around the league. We talk about this, we talk about that. And this week there's a significant storyline that has been thrust in our face, and it's the quarterback position. There are changes all over the place. There's backups all over the place. We're getting guys benched and stuff. So before we get into any specifics, let me ask you, and I brought this up before, and every time I bring it up, everyone says it's a stupid idea. Reiterate your thoughts on team quarterback, because this is the second year in a row now, and again we've got we got 40% of the season left still, third of the season left still. It's the second year in a row where there have been significant issues at the quarterback position. 10 years ago, guys played 16 games. Doesn't happen anymore. Should we be considering team quarterback?
You and I have talked about that, I think, in the past. I have no issues with it. Like, I am okay if that's a direction that, fantasy managers want to go or league commissioners want to go. I think it protects you, right? It protects you if your quarterback gets injured during the game, protects you in those instances. We're only starting one quarterback, so I don't see a problem with it, and I think that it really won't change your strategy all that much because I don't think there's a lot of emphasis being placed. We don't handcuff quarterbacks, so it really wouldn't change the strategy all that much. I just think it simply protects you, and being that you're only starting one and whatnot. I think this is good. I think it's very helpful, especially in 2 quarterback leagues, because the waivers tend to be dry, so you don't have to worry about. I think it's maybe even better for super flex or 2 quarterback leagues versus a 1 quarterback league, because it does protect you from the waivers and having to stash 6 quarterbacks or whatever the case may be. So I'm not against it. We've talked about it. We've considered it in some of my leagues, but we've never gone forward with it. But I wouldn't be against making that kind of change. I think it protects you from some of the variance that comes with fantasy football, especially in the injury department at the quarterback position.
I do too, but no one seems to like it. It's just really weird.
I don't understand.
Let's all run to the waiver wire and guess on which of the backup quarterbacks are going to be good. I don't quite get that. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Kirk Cousins has taken over. We talked about this with Michael Penix. And I said this, the hit that Michael Penix took that injured his knee, that hit happens 10 times a game. I mean, now they're talking potential surgery and ACL. Like, that was his career is in significant danger because that wasn't even a real hit. He just got spun to the ground and he's out. Season's likely over, all that kind of stuff. Okay, Kirk Cousins, what do we got? It wasn't that long ago, about a year back from right now, where Kirk Cousins was rolling. He got injured. He was terrible down the stretch. Some people are now thinking that there's a significant difference between Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins. I don't see there being a significant difference right now. What do you see?
I think there's a slight downgrade with Cousins under center there in Atlanta. I'm not saying Michael Penix is great, but it's been very, very brutal watching Kirk Cousins, since he returned from the injury. And even in little instances this season when he played against Miami, didn't really look that good. You look at some of the others, just times he comes in, just doesn't look great. Obviously, much slower than he was a couple of years back. So and then you look at this offense, they're going to be without Drake London this week. I think it's going to be very difficult here for this Atlanta offense to move the ball around this week. So I am concerned about Cousins under center. I don't have a lot of optimism when it comes to him.
Armando Marsal, fantasyguru.com. Follow him at
I try to be optimistic, but it's tough.
It is very difficult. Armando _Marsal on Twitter X. Davis Mills, Davis Mills has been fine, and he's done something that the backup quarterbacks need to do, and I say it all the time. Look, you're the backup quarterback. You get thrown into the mix here. Throw the ball to your star. It's not that complicated, right? Get the ball into the hands of your star, and he's done that. He's been throwing the ball double-digit times to Nico Collins. Collins has been fine. This is almost more about C.J. Stroud, though, because, C.J. Stroud, we're hearing that he may not play again this week, and now we're talking about a scenario where we have to be concerned when we're going to see C.J. Stroud, because the head injuries, we know how this goes. Some guys quickly rebound, other guys don't. There has to be the thought of IR. This C.J. Stroud's season could be over. I'm not catastrophizing this. I'm reading tea leaves here. So where are we at with Davis Mills, and what are your general thoughts that no one can hold you to about what's going on with C.J. Stroud?
Yeah, I believe the Texans play on Thursday, don't they? This week, yeah. So they're on a short week. The fact that he hasn't cleared the protocol is concerning to me, because usually you get a 1 week, period where they miss a week and then they're back. But the fact that he's missing here multiple games, it is a little bit concerning. I don't think he'll be placed on IR unless they're planning on ending his season at this point, because he's already missed multiple games. So right. If they place him on IR, I think it's season ending. And Davis, would be a QB2, in a super flex, 2-quarterback league, really matchup dependent. I view him as a, kind of low end, mid-level QB2 this week if he starts against Buffalo. We've seen it, this team struggle here. So look, he's benefited. He played Jacksonville, he played Tennessee, two good matchups through the air. Mills also offers that rushing ability. So if you're hurting at the position, you're looking for a streaming option, or you're in Superflex 2-quarterback leagues, probably a QB between 15 and 20 range. That's kind of where I'm viewing him. I think you could definitely do worse. Feel better about him than I do about Cousins if you're looking for a plug and play in these kind of formats.
Armando, the Jets. The team sucks. They have guys, their number one weapon out wide is hurt in Wilson. There is no depth at the wide receiver position. They built a crappy offense. Okay. Justin Fields has had some great moments this year. He's had some horrible moments this year. Okay. They're going to Tyrod Taylor this week. We all knew this was going to happen at some point. Does anything change with Tyrod Taylor? What are your expectations with him? Me personally, and Jeff Mann said this on the Elite Sports Show yesterday on SiriusXM, and I 100% agree. Justin Fields has not made his last start. There's no way Tyrod Taylor is going to make every start the rest of the way without getting hurt. It's impossible. He will get hurt at some point. So I just want to caution everybody. I don't think we're getting Tyrod Taylor as our quarterback 2 the rest of the way in the Superflex League, but maybe I'm wrong. What are your thoughts on Taylor and this Jets offense that is really messy right now?
Yeah, I wouldn't trust Taylor the rest of the season either. This is why, with sometimes the rest of the season, this is something where it's going to be short-lived, in my opinion. Maybe they wait for Wilson to get back, to get Fields back in there. I don't know what they're doing in New York. It's a complete mess. If you're looking for a streaming option this week and you want to go to Tyrod Taylor, sure. But I don't even have him inside the top 24. I don't think Jeff has him. I could pull up the rankings, but is he in Jeff's top 24 at this moment? He's probably in the 25, 26 range, I would assume. It's very difficult to trust him here against the Ravens. And if he struggles, what says that the Jets don't make another change? We've seen this already with them, right? So I think this is highly volatile situation, and it would be a short-term Band-Aid versus a long-term fix if you're looking for quarterback help in your fantasy leagues.
He has him at 23 right now, but you have to remember Tua, Nix, Herbert, Mariota are out. All 4 of those guys would be ranked ahead of him if they were playing. So Correct. He would be then 27 to your point. So yeah, I agree with you. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Normally we hear left hand for quarterback if they're right-handed, and we say, who cares? I don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers, but he's got that left wrist issue. They're running tests. Unless something was announced the last half hour when I was fighting technology, I don't think we know who's going to start this week for the Steelers. Mason Rudolph came in. Offense didn't look any different. Mason, and frankly, Aaron Rodgers got the touchdowns and he's doing that thing, but he's throwing for 210 yards and 1.9 touchdowns a week. Mason Rudolph can do that. Do you expect a significant change for Rudolph or any of his pass catchers if he's the starter and Rodgers misses some time?
No, I'm not expecting significant changes. I think this offense is going to pretty much operate the same, maybe slightly less efficient with Rudolph under center in certain situations, and maybe they won't be able to convert on certain situations. Maybe that's the difference we're going to see. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't think it's going to be all that difference. We've been viewing Rodgers as a low-end QB2 for most of the season. Mason Rudolph, low-end QB2 this week, I think. So, I don't see many changes here. We've seen this Mason Rudolph, situation play out before, and it's as average as it's been all season with this Steelers offense.
Armando Marsal, fantasyguru.com. We don't know if Jackson Dart's going to play or not this week. Too early in the week to know if he'll be able to come back from his head injury. If he doesn't, and Jameis Winston, is out there, and if you're in a 2 QB league, you picked up Jameis Winston last week. If you're in a super flex league, I think you picked him up last week. So I don't even know. He's not a quarterback one, so I don't even really know why I'm asking the question. I'm just asking it because there are some leagues where he's available. If Winston is the starter, did you see anything last week to make you excited about that, if that's the case this week?
No, not really excited, but I still think that I think that was, a very competitive game. I don't know if that's going to be the case this week against Detroit. I think this is a big week for Detroit. They need to make a stand here. So I do expect the Giants to be chasing more points in this one. I do expect them to have to pass a little bit more, but the supporting cast here is not great, right? Like that we have to acknowledge in the passing game. Is he going to throw a ton? Yes. How efficient is he going to be? We don't know. He does have, we saw the rushing up, the rushing touchdown. So he does have that element in his game if he gets near the goal line. But I do expect him to throw it a little bit more this week. So, yeah, I do think there's appeal from a fantasy standpoint, but just understand it is high variance. It's not going to be a safe floor. There's a massive ceiling, but there's also a very, very low floor here given the supporting cast in New York. So QB2 for me, again, super flex, 2 quarterback leagues. In a single quarterback league, you can make the case for him. But, again, I do think there's a lot of variance when it comes to Winston.
Armando, what about the Cleveland scenario? They basically have said if Dylan Gabriel can work through his head injury, he'll be the starter. We saw Shedeur Sanders come in and play like poo. He's been smashed for what he said after the game because he seems very aloof and not at all understanding the situation he's in, which is, again, probably one of the main reasons he fell 5,000 picks in the NFL draft this season. We're seeing it right now. So talk us through both guys, because there's a chance either one could start this week. Does it matter who starts for the Browns? Does either one of them excite you more than the other? Does either one of them cause you to say, that guy's my quarterback too this week, I'm okay? This passing attack has pretty much been on life support for a while now, other than one big game by Jerry Jeudy over the last month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this Dylan Gabriel story play out already. He's had one top 12 finish throughout the season, and that was against the New York Jets. We just talked about how bad that team is. I'm not comfortable starting any of these quarterbacks. I've been pretty firm with that all season long. Like, this is a quarterback situation that, to me, once they made the change and they went to the younger guys, it was going to be highly volatile. It was going to be very brutal to watch, and that's been the case. And I think regardless of who's under center, I think it's going to be very bad for this offense. If we're being honest, I think Gabriel's their better option. Sanders, like you mentioned, did not look good. I think there was a lot of concerns with him entering the NFL. Aside from the off the field stuff and all the media stuff, like I think there was questions regarding his ability. And he looked. I mean, it was really bad last week. So I don't trust this situation whatsoever. This is if you're in dire need. And this is strictly 2 quarterback or super flex league. Like, there's no scenario, I think, in a single quarterback league where I would be looking at this quarterback situation, regardless of who's under center, and saying, I want to start, or I feel okay, or there's not many instances where I'd rather play a wide receiver or running back in your super flex spot. This is one of those instances where I would strongly consider it depending on your options.
Armando, so those are kind of the situations that are kind of in upheaval right now. I want to talk to you about some guys that have the gig, but what's the outlook look like? First one of those is Bryce Young. And I mean, look, Bryce Young, you can argue very easily that he just had the greatest passing game in Panthers history. He did set the record for passing yards. This is also the same guy who for 2 months couldn't throw for 200 yards. And he somehow threw for 400 yards last week. What do we got here? Because we know how this goes. People are going to chase this. He's going to be using DFS this week. He's going to be picked up off the waiver wire. What percentage of what happened last week is real? Because again, he literally threw for twice as many yards last week as he'd been averaging for the previous 2 months. What say you?
So Bryce Young has topped 200 passing yards on 2 occasions this season. 2. Okay. He's finished as a top 12 quarterback on 2 occasions this year. Top 15, 3 occasions. Other than that, he's been 24 or worse every other game, right? I'm not chasing this. I'm not chasing. He attempted 45 passes this past weekend, the second most he's attempted in a single game this season, right? We don't chase that. This is a very highly volatile quarterback, one who generally finishes outside the top 24 in production. Again, I rather go with other players, other quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about some of these guys that I feel much more comfortable with. I wouldn't chase this. I think this is fool's gold. Can he have these kind of performances? Absolutely. We've already seen it twice this season, right, where he's gone for a top 5 performance. Is it something that I expect moving forward or a consistent basis? Absolutely not.
Jacoby Brissett is at home this week facing the Jaguars, and mad credit, and it's not really surprising. Maybe it's not. We called it here on the show. We've talked about it forever. Kyler Murray's just not that good. He just isn't. He's fine, and he does things, and he's athletic and all that. But we all basically thought that Brissett takes over under center, and the offense really doesn't lose anything. Well, it's not that they haven't lost anything. They've improved. And he's actually, if I'm not mistaken, thrown for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns in every game that he started for this team this year, Brissett. Last week, he threw 57 passes, never doing that again. He had an NFL record for completions. Okay, he's never doing that again. But he's one of these guys I assume you're talking about that, if you're in a pinch, there's a pretty good level of stability that we're getting right now from Jacoby Brissett.
Incredible stability, right? He's one of those players I've been alluding to this show. If he's out there, he's someone I'm comfortable playing in a single quarterback league this week. If you're hurting at the position, for instance, you mentioned Bo Nix, you mentioned Herbert now. If those are your starting quarterbacks, getting Brissett this week is not a bad thing. When you look at the numbers, he's had 20 plus fantasy points in every single game since week 6. You mentioned 2 passing touchdowns, at least 2 passing touchdowns in each of those games. He has a rushing touchdown in one of those games. He's top 250 passing yards in every single one of those games, 300 plus passing yards in 2 of those contests. I mean, it's been pretty consistent. He didn't have his star receiver this weekend, and he still was able to throw for a ton of yardage and multiple passing touchdowns. Look at how well Michael Wilson looked this weekend with Brissett under. I mean, yes, it was a matter of volume, but at the end of the day, he was able to deliver the football here. And for me, I look at it as if you're in a 2 quarterback league, he should have already been on your roster. If you're in a super flex league, he should have already been on your roster. If you're in a single quarterback league and you're in a pinch, he is someone I rely on. Even when he doesn't play great, even when he's turning the ball over, he's making up for it with volume, and that's going to continue to be the case here. From a fantasy standpoint, I look at him as a very high floor player with a pretty decent upside given what he's costing fantasy managers at this point.
Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com. Join us every Tuesday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're talking over the quarterback position with him this week. Let's talk about a guy who's coming off a bye. It was a long time ago. I'm old enough to remember when Daniel Jones was a star in this league. First 8 weeks of the season, Daniel Jones was great. He was great. Last 2 games, he had 5 turnovers. He had 2 turnovers. That's 7 turnovers in 2 games. He miraculously fumbled the ball 6 times in 2 games. Only lost 3 of them, but he fumbled the ball 6 times. Like, I'm seeing ghosts. I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, it went to crap after 8 really good weeks with Daniel Jones. This week, Kansas City. That's not a good matchup. The Chiefs got to win a football game after what happened on Sunday. It's a tough place to play. Where are we at with Daniel Jones? Is he still a QB1 because the numbers say yes? Or do you have concerns?
Ray, I planted my flag a while ago. I'm stuck on the island. Everyone can abandon the island. I'm staying on the island by myself. Daniel Jones, I still view him as a top 12 quarterback. Look, it's been brutal watching him play the last couple of weeks as far as, when you're watching these games, he hasn't played well. Still finishes as a top 14 quarterback, in scoring in each of those games, right? Even though he didn't perform up to expectations. Someone that continues to deliver a pretty stable weekly floor. He has the rushing element to his game, which helps him on those bad days. And like you mentioned, he got off to a great start, but he's still been very productive. If you look at the numbers on a week-to-week basis, still delivering, like I mentioned, look, you got 20 points, 21 points, 25, 24, 18. Like, these are the recent games from him. He's still giving you that production you're looking for. So even if he does, what we notice is he's been getting pressure a little bit more. That needs to stop this week. This is, I think, they worked on that during the bye. The offensive line needs to improve protecting him. It is going to be a test here, but I do think he's going to deliver you a good game. In a, like you mentioned, in a tough game environment, but I do expect him to deliver a good game here.
Jordan Love is somebody that, he's fine. And depending upon how your team is put together, okay. In certain scenarios, we need more than fine at quarterback. I don't know what you can do. A lot of leagues, you can't trade anymore and that kind of thing. Shoulder issue a little bit last week. It's his non-throwing arm. Seems fine. Okay. Receiving core is beat up. Guys dropping passes. The same problems with Jordan Love. The touchdown to Christian Watson was an absolutely horrible decision that worked out. He threw the ball in double cover. Terrible. Watson made a great play. He's struggling to throw the ball for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like that, it's really been a struggle. Now, again, there's a lot of things going on here, but Jacobs is now out. They still don't have Reed back out on the field. The receiving core is beat up. They can't figure out how to get Matthew Golden, their first-round draft pick, involved in this offense on a consistent basis. Jordan Love, a QB2, and that's it? Kind of a boring guy, or am I overblowing some of the concerns with this Packers offense right now?
No, you're spot on. He's a QB2 with QB1 upside, right? Like, that's how I viewed him. That's kind of how I viewed him entering the season as one. It really hasn't changed my perspective all that much, and we're seeing it where he has some big weeks, some really bad weeks. And you mentioned the decision-making doesn't look good. The supporting cast is not 100%. Losing Tucker Kraft is huge for Jordan Love, someone who he depended on a lot. You obviously have a banged-up running back as well. I just, they've been trying to address that guy that that receiver position for him. And like you mentioned, they haven't been able to get Golden going. Watson is always injured. So it's just a matter of, I think, supporting cast hasn't been spot on for Jordan Love. And his play has also not been great. So a combination of the two, and it's resulted in a lot of highly volatile weeks for him from a fantasy standpoint, where he's sometimes giving you that QB1 production, but at times also giving you that QB2. So if you're using him as your QB2 in Superflex or 2 quarterback leagues, that's great. If you're relying on him as your QB1, you just have to be, on the ride for the roller coaster. It's an up and down ride. That's what it's going to be with him each and every week. Matchup here against the Vikings this week. So they're going to apply pressure here. He's going to have to complete some of these short intermediate passes, and the receivers are going to have to make the plays. And that's the difficulty in Green Bay. They don't always make the plays, Ray.
Armando, let's go to the chat room. We had a question earlier from Doc talking about the tight ends, but basically want to ask you about a player that from the team we just mentioned, the Packers, Luke Musgrave. There was hope that Musgrave would step in for Kraft. They're not the same player, but there was hope that he would step in because there's certainly an opportunity for that tight end to have a role in the Packers offense. Hasn't done anything through a couple of weeks. We saw Fitzpatrick involved last week at a heavy level, especially in the second half. Where are you at with Musgrave? Is he in any scenario somebody you can start, or is he just one of 18 guys that you don't really want to start each week?
No, he hasn't gotten that role that we were hoping for. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he got benched last week because I think he dropped the ball,
right,
or fumbled. But yeah, he's just difficult to trust. He did not step into the role I expected him to, step into. I thought he was going to, take over that Tucker Kraft role, and unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. I think I heard you talking about Juwan Johnson. I think you and I spoke about him a couple of weeks ago as well. If he's out there, he's someone I would be strongly considering. I think his production is going to be far more consistent than Musgrave. And I mean, so that's where I'm at with Musgrave. We haven't seen it. And the fact that, he got benched last week, it is concerning to me. We have to see it to believe it before we trust him.
Ethan's got a question about Dortch. We talked about Jacoby Brissett. We've talked about Michael Wilson. Dortch caught 6 passes, had a touchdown last week, I believe. Was heavily involved. They run Wildcats where he's the quarterback. I don't get it, but they do that too. Dortch, what do you think? Because, I'm a heightist. I've admitted this many times. Dortch is somebody who looks like my 12-year-old brother. Like, he's just a little dude. You know what I mean? Like, here's Wilson. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. Dortch, they don't really have options. I mean, it's McBride, it's Wilson, and Dortch. So he's going to have a role in this offense, so you can't expect him to be as good as last week. At least that's how I see it. What do you say?
Well, you mentioned how the passing volume for Brissett in that game. So the 6 targets for Dortch last week were just 11% of the target share, right? So like if we start decreasing the number of pass attempts and we get down to 11%, if he's only attempting 35 to 45, you're talking about 3.5 to maybe 5 targets. Mm-hmm. I think that's, you might not get that production. In deeper leagues, 14-team leagues, PPR formats, sure, where we're digging deep, in the waivers at this stage of the season. But in a 10 and most 12-team leagues, you're probably not looking to start him. If you want to add him for depth, sure. But again, it has to be deeper benches, deeper leagues, not necessarily shallow or leagues where 10-team leagues where you're not going to be starting him. That's kind of with these kind of players, you're not going to be starting him. I don't look at Marvin Harrison Jr. as a lengthy absence. He could be back. There's been reports he could be back as early as this week. I don't think so. I think this is a multi-week injury, or not injury, but situation. Mm-hmm. So if you in deeper leagues, sure, but not in shallow leagues.
Do you still have your appendix? I do.
I do too.
Hopefully neither one of us is out of action for a couple of weeks. Hopefully.
No.
Doc has a question about Mason Taylor. With Garrett Wilson out, does Mason Taylor get a boost with the change of quarterback to Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah, but he still falls in that bucket, right? For me, like that low end, high end, not even low end, high end tight end 2 with tight end 1 upside. But if you have Mark Andrews, like if you're thinking about this, you probably have like guys like Mark Andrews, Juwan Johnson. Like if you have these players already, I would just stick with what you got.
Tyler's got a question here. It's a little complicated, but the bottom line is Tyler was offered Jamar Chase for 2 players. He'd have to give up Olave and Swift. Now, Jamar Chase, we talked about earlier in the show. Jamar Chase spit on Jalen Ramsey. He's been suspended for a game. He's appealing the suspension. I don't think anyone expects it to change. I think he's not playing this week. So, making it, in Tyler's situation, he's 9-2. So he falls to 9-3. Who cares, right? We're trying to win the championship here. In theory, he then would have Lamb, Chase, and London, though, of course, we don't know when London's going to be back. Igbuka would then be his third receiver, which is a great third receiver to have, right? So trade seems to make sense, but then you look at the backfield, and it's like Dowdle's slowing down a little bit. Breece Hall's in a wonky offense. Henderson's been great, but what's going to happen when Stevenson's healthy? Are they going to be stupid about this? I don't know. And then Walker's usable, but he's not the only guy in his backfield. I think the trade works if we're 9-2. We're trying to win a championship. What do you think?
I agree 100%. I think this trade works. I think there's going to be a little bit of volatility maybe at the running back position, because I feel maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like Swift might be his safest option right now, right? When you're looking at volume and production in recent weeks. But yeah, I think this definitely upgrades your receiver position, and you really are going to have a 3-headed monster. And then once you're your London comes back, you're going to have a four-headed monster. Now, I will say this. If you cannot start 4 wide receivers, right, then you have to reconsider what you're giving up here, right? It's in that case, I might be willing to give up 2 receivers for Chase instead of some of that running back depth. Because if you're only going to be handcuffed to 3 receivers every week, you're going to be choosing between Lamb, London, Igbuka, and Jamar Chase, which means you're probably going to be choosing between, 4 top 10, top 12 receivers on a week-to-week basis. I don't know if you want to be in a position to make that decision every single week. So I just wanted to point that out. If you could start 4 receivers, this trade makes sense. But if you're handicapped to 3, I would reconsider this trade.
Scott asked a question here as well. He's talking also about the situation with London. And again, just to reiterate something Armando says all the time, he said it on the show and he says it in Discord all the time. It's something I say on the show and in Discord all the time. When we're talking about injured players, we have no idea. 1 week becomes 6 weeks. 1 week becomes season. 1 week becomes I'm not even missing a week. Like it's all over the place. Bucky Irving was supposed to be back. We don't have no idea. Brandon Ayuk was supposed to be back. We have no idea. So there's always that caution here. Scott's asking, he's expecting London to miss 1 or 2 weeks, which I think is fair, but we have no idea if that's accurate. Wendell Robinson. Now, again, this is a tricky situation because whether it's Winston or Dart does make a difference. We saw 9 targets go to Wendell Robinson last week, and he didn't even reach 8 PPR points. And again, I'm a sizeist. I admit it. Wendell Robinson is 5'7", 180 pounds or whatever. He's tiny. He's tiny. There's things he cannot do on a football field. They have no choice because Neighbors and Slayton were both out. If Slayton's back, then okay. Robinson's fine. But other than like 2 games, he's kind of been like Bryce Young. Other than 2 games, Wendell Robinson scores 8 points every week, and who really cares?
Yeah, for me, so I look at Judy. I don't like the quarterback situation there. We've talked about that Cleveland quarterback situation. I look at Myers. Was a little bit more involved in the second game there with Jacksonville. But Wendell Robinson, he's just getting the volume, right? Like, that's the thing with me. Like, I'm going to chase volume here. He has 12, 4, 11, 11, 9 targets in the last 5 games. Hasn't had fewer than 7 targets in all but one of his last 7 games. So, like, the volume is there. The production isn't going to be there. But when we're looking at these kind of options, I rather chase, the volume because the production for neither of these is guaranteed. The production for Myers is not guaranteed. The production for Judy is not guaranteed. I will say this. It could vary from week to week between Myers and Wendell Robinson in the next couple of weeks, but I want to see a little bit more from Myers' consistency in this offense, more involvement in this offense on a consistent basis before I fully trust him because it'd be difficult for me to bench someone that's getting, double-digit targets for someone who isn't fully incorporated in the offense just yet.
Since week 3, Wendell Robinson in the PPR setup is 10.4 points a game. Yeah.
It's not exciting. You're not going to replace London production, unfortunately, with any of these guys, Scott. So that we do apologize for that because you can't get it. But you know what? Get your 8 points. Get your 8 PPR points.
What the hell? Let's get it. I misspoke. I should have said 8 to 11. But
yeah, you see, you're nice. You're giving him more credit. More credit.
Final question before we let you run, Armando, and close things down here. Do you think Jalen Daniels is a drop? If he comes back, I remember that Jeff mentioning how eager are they to play him in a last season. We don't know who your other quarterback is, Doc. We don't know what your roster situation is, Doc. But I will say that I have Jaden Daniels. I dropped Jaden Daniels in a 14-team league. That was me. Because, again, I'm up and down. And I don't know if we see him again. That's completely unclear at this point. I think they're leaning toward wanting to play him. What are they, 3-8 right now? Kind of the same thing with Joe Burrow. He wants to play. They kind of want to play him. Are they going to play him? What do you think with Jaden Daniels?
I agree 100% with you. Is what you said, Ray. It depends on your roster situation. It depends on who your other quarterback is. Do you need this, a bench spot for another player? Who are you picking up and dropping him for? Like, all this matters, Doc. If you want, shoot me a message in Discord. I'll be happy to help you with this move. But this is very dependent on what you're trying to accomplish here by dropping Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, we still have 4 teams on bye this week. We're still dealing with bye weeks. We got injuries all over the place. In a 10-team league, I'm not carrying Jaden Daniels on my bench.
Absolutely
again,
not.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, again, other people, and again, if there's keeper league rules or your starting quarterback is Bryce Young, okay. But yeah, I think in general, we just don't know if he's going to play again this season.
Correct.
Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com joins us every Tuesday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'm getting my time zones mixed up. 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. He joins us here. He then usually joins the live stream on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. He's doing a live stream Sundays. You do live stream Sunday mornings, correct, Armando?
Yes. So it's Sunday noon Eastern. I say Sunday morning because it feels like the morning, right? But It's Sunday noon Eastern. It's that tricky time, right at noon Eastern.
Noon Eastern. And then, of course, you're in Discord, as you mentioned. Of course, you're writing articles. You got all kinds of things coming out.
Mine and Marsal podcast, everything. Go
to fantasyguru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top. You can find this show that we're on right now, catalog, so you can find the old episodes. And you can find Mind of Marsal, which is Armando's podcast. Do you have it planned out for what you're doing this week?
We got a DFS one on Friday. It won't be a recap one this week, but the DFS one on Friday. Chris Rose will be joining me, and then back to the regular 2-week schedule next week.
Yeah, there we go. Armando Marsal of fantasyguru.com, a man of the people. Armando, thanks for not laughing, because I noticed a couple times you looking at my face and wondering what the hell was going on. I will diligently work to try to make myself not look like the girl alien from Willy Wonka. They turned blue, I turned red. I don't know what's going on. We'll work on that today, but great information as always. Great attitude. Appreciate you jumping on. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yep, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. He's Armando Marsal. I'm Ray Flowers. As you can see there on the screen, remember right now, the full season all-in football package the rest of the way, $99.99, get you all the seasonal, all the DFS, all the betting, all of it for both college football and the NFL. Get signed up right now. Subscribe tab, top right corner, or send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the follow. Thanks for the likes. We really appreciate it. We'll be back here tomorrow. Justin Fensterman and Rich Mileto on tomorrow. I'll be with Jeff Manns on the SiriusXM show, Elite Sports, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Armando, I'm Ray. It's been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.